And I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, if you're doing this with a spouse, with a partner, you all need to get on the same page and say, all right, we are going to pursue these dreams, pursue these goals, list these things out, and then start taking like some action items and maybe even brainstorm like, here's what we should do. Welcome back to The Donkey and the Bee, where I am a jackass and she is a biatch, and we are showing you how to have an amazing life together.
Yep, that's pretty much what it is. You know, everyone's wondering what the donkey and the bee means, and you just flat out said it. So there you go. There it is. You know.
Yes.
Well,
you haven't been acting too much like a bee today, so
and you haven't been acting too much like a donkey, so we're good. But we talk all things marriage, entrepreneurship, and finance, and today we are talking about investments, but not the investments that you think we're going to be talking about that we normally talk about. We're going to be talking about
your first investment.
Your first investment, yes.
All right. So it's your most important investment. It's your foundation. What's first? And I think that's the best way for people to start. Like, it's, if you fast forwarded, you know, it's so easy after you've done 10 or 20 or 100 deals, right? But what's the first one? Mm-hmm. That's the hardest one.
Yep. I think when people hear the term invest, they think money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when I finally realized that this was my first investment, what we're going to be talking about, it was kind of flipped my mindset on exactly what it meant to invest. And so I'm excited to talk about this.
All right. Well, let's reveal the secret. Your first investment?
Yourself.
Yourself. Invest in yourself first, right? You are your biggest asset.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you need to change yourself, grow yourself, set your own goals, believe bigger in order to do all these things that you dream about doing. So we're not going to talk about how to get your deal done, how to structure it. What's important right now, first and foremost, is how to change your self-belief, how to grow yourself or invest in yourself so that you can do your second deal or third or fourth, which actually makes money. But before we talk about making money, you need to change who you are. And it's a period of transition and growth over the rest of your life, but you have to make that commitment and make that start and really, you know, get off the couch and say, all right, this is the time. Now is what it is. And so we'll break that down. How do you actually go about starting investing in yourself?
Yeah, I think it starts with commitment. I think you really need to hone in and realize that how you are now should not be the same as you are tomorrow. We always talk about being a better person than you were yesterday. And so being committed in every area, not just your mindset, you know, what you put in your mouth, what you put in your mind, what you put in your eyes. I mean, all these things you got to be committed to. Excellence is really what I think it is. And so we had that commitment in the very beginning of, hey, you know, we need to read some books. We need to educate ourselves. We need to expand our mindset. I think that was really what was the trajectory for us in quote unquote success, however you define that, was the belief. Like, right? Like, we needed to believe that we could actually achieve financial freedom, that we can actually start flipping houses, that we can actually start a business or two or three. And so I think it's slow growth within our mindset and the belief that really just skyrocketed us toward our quote unquote success.
Yeah. And it's not something that's like one day, like, oh, I had this aha moment and now I believe that I can be a multimillionaire in the next few years, right? Like, it was baby steps for us. And it was a time that we sat down together and we made a commitment together. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, if you're doing this with a spouse, with a partner, you all need to get on the same page and say, all right, we are going to pursue these dreams, pursue these goals, list these things out, and then start taking like some action items and maybe even brainstorm, like, here's what we should do, right? We started with books. Books were vital to our success. It really changed our mental mindset of what we can and could do. And so we started there. And then with podcasts and then networking and getting around people who were better than us on these specific areas of our life. We had goals towards these things. So we went and found people who were already doing that. They may not have been like the biggest rock stars, but they were ahead of us in that same kind of journey. And we surrounded ourselves with new people that we didn't know and became friends with new friend groups. And that was really the starting point. It was making a commitment and saying, all right, I'm going to take these next steps, these actions. And it never actually stopped. We just kept doing those things. It's always new books. It's always new podcasts. It's always new networking groups and trying to find bigger and better individuals in the space or in the niche or in that, aspect of life that we are pursuing.
Yeah, there were, certain friends in our life that are great people, awesome people. But I think that their mindset and belief were drastically different than where we were going toward. And so it's hard to be in a group of friends who don't have that similar mindset than you, because they get uncomfortable, and because they get uncomfortable, they tend to pull you down, or kind of infiltrate lack of belief within your goals. And so I think it's important to find, I don't want to say new friends, but kind of, new friends in a way that have that same, growth mindset, that want to, change the world, that want to change their family tree. Being around people that have that is vital for your growth too, because it's going to pull you up, right? It's going to expand your growth mindset and really like make you believe that you can achieve those goals, versus being in a friend group that's saying, what are you talking about? You can't do that.
Yeah. There is kind of an offensive and a defensive to making this commitment and starting. And you kind of hit on the defensive is there's that crab in the bucket kind of mentality with a lot of times with family too. So, sometimes you just need to protect yourself, your beliefs, your goals from the people that have the biggest influence in your family or in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers, because they may just pull you down. People come at it from the perspective of, if I can't do that, then you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just limiting belief on their part. And this is the whole part where what we're trying to change and talk about today is how to invest in yourself. And it all really starts with what you believe you can do. And you can do anything that you believe you can do. And that was one of the biggest lessons that my first mentor taught me. If one person can do it, so can another. That was his quote. And I literally took that to heart and I reprogrammed it in my subconscious mind. And over the many years since then, it's literally became more and more real in a new way for me. There's a new perspective. That to me, that first week or month meant, I can flip one house. Maybe I can do 4 a year. To okay, now then we built a business of flipping 50 houses. Then it was like, okay, now I can go do multi-million-dollar deals. Now why can't I do 8-figure deals? Why can't I, build bigger businesses? Why can't I be incredibly generous and give, lots and lots of money away? All of those things continued and will continue over the rest of my life to grow. And my perspective, what I can do, will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But it started with this. And that's what we're talking about today. Like get that snowball running of your self-belief, of your worth, of what you can do and accomplish in this life, because there's so much potential that we all have.
Yeah, I think the biggest enemy is yourself. We always think it's our past or our parents or the lack of money or I didn't have a mom or whatever it may be, right? Everyone has excuses for why they're not successful in life, right? But I think it's throwing those excuses to the side and literally sometimes yourself to the side and being like, hey, like that is just so limiting my beliefs here. I need to realize that I have so much potential. I have so many skills. And I think there needs to be the stigma of confidence needs to be destroyed, I think, because there's such a negative outlook on a lot of people who have confidence or who say good things about themselves that it's negative, right? But if you say bad things about yourself, you put yourself down, oh yes, I can relate to that. That's a positive thing. It's such a weird thing in our culture that we do that, right? And so I always am like, we need to flip the script on that.
Yeah.
Like we need to walk around and be confident in ourselves and in the skills that we have, not being braggadocious or being douchey about it or anything, but like actually confidently walking to a room and knowing that you can work that room and you can walk up and talk to people and meet new people and not being like, oh, I'm so insecure. I have a zit on my face. I shouldn't be talking to anybody or whatever it may be, right? Like just be confident knowing that you do have amazing skills, more than just one. And so utilizing that and capitalizing on that.
Yeah, for sure. So if you are getting started here, if you're making this commitment and you want to invest in yourself, right? We talked about books and podcasts and networking and making new friends. What type of energy, what type of like time commitment should you do when you're starting out? What do you think is the best?
So I would say daily and continually. So it's not something that you're just going to one and done. I'm going to read one book. I think it's daily and continually. So I read daily. I listen to podcasts daily. Those two things are something that I really think are important and that do stretch my mindset and have honestly drastically changed the trajectory of our business. Like just reading one book, like the one book that we just read by Alex Hormozy, 100 Million Offers, like it changed the trajectory of our business. And so I love that. I love knowing that I'm going to read a new book and be like, hey, this could be a life changer for me personally, or for my marriage, or for, me being a mom or a spouse or whatever it be. One book can make a massive difference in your life. And so I think it's almost like an excitement for me of like, hey, this is a new book and I'm going to learn something new. And even if I don't, even if I'm not like that excited about it, I'm still going to learn something and I can still, utilize it within my life.
Yeah, I like that you said that. There's so much potential in some of these books. And there's been maybe 5 or 6 books that have been like life altering for me. And then probably another 100 or so that haven't, right? So I think it's important to find what excites you. And if you're reading a new book in person or on Audible and it's not really getting you excited, you don't want to continue to read it, then drop it. Just move on to the next. But find something that will be life-changing for you. Because there are books that were out there just like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed right now in my life, for my family, for my physical body, for my business, whatever it is. And it has the potential to change your life. So find those ones that really excite you. And then don't just read it once and then move on to the next thing, right? Read it like 3, 4, 5 times in a row and let that wash over you and reprogram your mind and really implement these things. Because those just few books, it can be the foundation of all of your new stories, all of your new successes. And there's so much potential there.
Yeah. And what I also want to say, because if you're not a reader, I'm hearing the excuses in the crowd already saying I'm not a reader. I would say that I'm not a reader, but I am. I listen to most of my things on Audible. Download the Audible app, upload, 1 or 2 books, and just put it on in your car. I mean, it's that simple. There's literally no excuse. If you're running in the morning or whatever you're doing, like just put it on in the background. You don't have to be sitting and physically read a book, turning the pages, which you can do. But if you're not that type of person, you still have the option of doing it on Audible.
Yeah. All right. So daily, right?
Yes.
Daily in the car. I mean, I probably get in 2+ hours a day of Audible, whether it's just my morning routine, getting ready, cooking breakfast, driving, a couple hours a day on that, right? But what's next? The next thing I think is important to talk about is actually investing money in yourself as you are your greatest asset. We like to set up sacred accounts. We want to split a portion of our income off and get ready to invest it in an asset, in something that makes money, right? But before we did that, we took that same principle, and you can too, save that money to invest. But instead of buying something that makes you money, your first investment should be money invested in yourself, right? Like
not shopping,
not a new purse. Okay,
I just had to make
education,
that clear.
training, workshops, courses, mentoring. That was how we started. We paid a good amount of money to somebody to have them teach us. We were able to copy and paste their business, their successes and their failures. We just shortcutted that and saved years of other people's failures by avoiding it, by following their path. And whether you do that, whether you do some type of online course or anything, but you should make a commitment to spend some money on yourself. And I think start with the free things first. Spend the energy and the time to really increase your belief and your foundation of yourself, and then invest that money. And that's really the first place I would tell you to invest money, right? Is now in yourself and learning a niche. Because if you're going to continue to buy some type of asset, and it could be any type, you really need to know that space and you need time to learn that. And I think that you should be saving that money, investing in yourself with capital to learn something, to learn a niche. We learned real estate. We started out learning flipping first. And actually, then we learned mobile homes, where we paid another coach to teach us like this mobile home niche. And we did that for a little bit. And we've done that subsequently, maybe 4 or 5 different times. Every time we grew and expanded and became an expert in something, and we wanted to conquer the next part of it as our growth continued, we again went out and found the expert in that niche and said, hey, I want to pay you for you to teach me. And again, that has been our secret success, is we're going to pay for speed, and we're going to learn other people's lessons and what they've failed at and how they've succeeded. And, in the 10 years that we've been doing business and investing in ourselves, we've spent many, many times what we paid for our actual college education. So don't be afraid to invest this money. You will make so much more money on this side of the coin than on what you spent in college to get a degree. That's not going to have a huge return for most people. But if you spend $30,000 to have someone teach you the intricacies of a business or investing, and potentially within a couple of years, you could 10x that money. And that's what we've done multiple times throughout different niches that we're doing. So I think the next thing to do after you committed and you've put in the time is find somebody or find a course or find some way to invest capital in yourself.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about, finding a coach or finding a mastermind is the people that you meet and the relationships that you build with the people that are there as well. And so there have been many, a handful of individuals that we've met years ago in masterminds that we still talk to now. And it's fun to see their growth and progress as well in their business life. And being around individuals that have that same mindset is life-giving. It's almost like gives you like the positive energy that you need. It's almost like a refuel whenever you go to a conference. Like you go to a conference and you get like totally hyped up and you get inspired. And then you meet a bunch of amazing individuals and you build relationships. And then you come back, 3-6 months later, however many times you meet. And it's almost like you see the growth within them as well. And so it's almost like it builds your confidence really when you see it in other people and they see it in you, and it's like you're just pulling each other up together. And so that's to be honest, the biggest thing that I love about masterminds is the relationships you build, because you're surrounded by like-minded individuals and people who really want to see you succeed. And I think when you're, in your normal life, in your neighborhood and in your job, you are surrounded by a lot of individuals who don't want to see you succeed. And so I think being in an environment that is conducive to the energy that you really want in your life is just, it skyrockets you.
For sure. Yeah. We talked a little bit ago about that analogy of the crabs in the bucket, your friend group, maybe your family. The mastermind situation or scenario is kind of the opposite of that. It's people pushing you up and encouraging you, and you see, people doing real life, and you experience these things together. Here's how it affected my business. Here's how it affected my family, my physical state. And, if you have those core group of people that are running this race with you, and again, now with virtual and everything, they could be all over the country, but you have like brothers and sisters that are like fighting the same fight that you are and have the same style of goals and the same niche that you are in. And it makes a huge difference to be able to have them support you and you support them. And really, it's where that community of growth is at.
It reminds me of, I love Ed Milet. He's a strong man of God. He's a super successful businessman. He always talks about this one thing. And this is like one thing that I always remember him saying is that when he gets to heaven and, he's before Jesus and he gets introduced to the man that, he was destined to be, right? He says his biggest fear is that he wouldn't recognize that man. But he said his biggest joy it would be exactly who he was. And so I think that there's so many skills and talents and abilities that we haven't even tapped into yet because of the fear that we have in our minds. It's like pushing past that fear in order to tap into that resource. And so I want to be the woman who is shaking the hand of the individual who, I was destined to be, and that is who I am. And so I think it's becoming a better version of yourself every day, pushing to, read 2 hours a day on Audible, or go to a new networking meeting, or join a new mastermind, whatever it may be, I think it's vital for you because you only have one life to live. Literally. Life is so precious and short. I know we hear that all the time, but we don't really understand that until we get sick or someone in our life gets sick or something happens, right? Why do we wait until then? Why can't we do it now? So get out there, read the books, get in the podcasts, join the masterminds, do what you can do to get uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable. I think it's like flexing that uncomfortable muscle. I think when I'm uncomfortable, I know that I'm in the right place because I know that's where I'm going to grow the most. When I'm comfortable, I'm sitting on the couch watching football, I'm not growing.
Yeah.
So get uncomfortable, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's right. All right, so now's the time. Take some action, invest in yourself, grow yourself, get together with your partner or spouse, and make this life your own.